Hello everyone, I'm AloneRacecar and welcome to a very unusual video of mine because most of you guys tend to know me as the guy who does like his cars, his gaming, and sometimes both at the same time. But what most people don't tend to know about me, yet even be surprised about, is that I'm actually really interested in astronomy. So rather be within like the planets of our solar system to the colorful nebulas and eclipses. And speaking of which, this particular video is all dedicated towards about the solar eclipse that's happening on April 8th, 2024, which is what I tend to plan on seeing. And as you probably might have noticed, I plan on maybe doing some kind of like a vlog or video diary or whatever you guys want to call that, all about my whole like journey to how I came to see it and anything else in between, you know? And of course, not to mention the eclipse itself. So yeah, strap yourself in and get ready to see this video diary of mine of my journey to the solar eclipse. So today started off in the early morning of Sunday, where I was waking up full of anxiety to a point where my guts, don't feel so good. But the good thing is I had a couple of saltine crackers as soon as I woke up, just so I can feel a bit more better. Oh yeah, plus it helps with the fact that I have all the essentials I need within my stuff for this trip of mine, because I took care of all of that stuff on the day prior. My mom and stepdad were willing to drive me to the airport, which is really nice because I don't know how anxious I would be if I pretty much went there all by myself, especially if I don't know what I'm doing. Now, I've been on a few flights from the airport before, but as you can probably tell, I don't really do it very often. But no matter what happened that morning, and especially the hassle of booking the flight beforehand, I was able to make it to the airport and get to my gate just on time. However, my Air Canada flight to Montreal had been delayed due to some piloting scheduling or something like that. So I think it was going to leave either between around 7:45 or 8:20. It's now been moved to an extra 2 hours, so around 10:20. So I guess that means there's more time for me to mentally prepare myself and relax a little. As for the security check, it was going smoothly until they detected a sunscreen bottle in my backpack that I thought I had taken out. I felt a little bit embarrassed about it because it was a relatively newer bottle and it was just a damn shame to let it go to waste over some security check. Oh well, nothing I can do to undo it now. Oh yeah, my mom had provided me with some kind of flight and travel information log sort of thing. So that way I know where to go and what to do when it comes to the airport business and, with the trip overall. With the flight still being delayed, it did give me some extra time to pretty much check out the area and see what the gift shops have in store. Not to mention I got something more proper to eat. And after some time admiring the planes, I had myself a little bit of a snack of those little pure maple syrup candies. I guess I'm not Canadian, aren't I? When it came time to board the plane, I would admit it did make me feel a little bit nervous because of how many people in line were speaking in French. Now, I do know a couple words in French, but if someone were to come at me all in French, I would definitely have a hard time understanding them. But I kept my cool and continued to board the plane as soon as my zone was called. I also had that song Sissy Popcorn by Preston Love in my head as I was walking towards the plane. You can blame Test Drive Unlimited for that because that's the song that plays once you selected your character and he or she boards the plane at the very beginning of the game. When it came to takeoff, I usually get a little bit uneasy because I always worry what would happen if the takeoff doesn't go as smoothly. And especially that whoosh against your seat as soon as the plane is at full speed when it's about to take off. Which is strange because with cars or go-karts it doesn't really bother me, but with planes I get really nervous about it. I guess I'm just that weird. But once the plane was at a more of a comfortable level, I was all good now. Oh yeah, especially when you start hearing other people's ears pop, almost kind of the same way how multiple people were opening a bag of chips at the same time. Since that there was some time and distance between here and there, I kept myself busy by playing some games on my phone or anything else I could do on my phone that doesn't necessarily require an internet connection. as well as occasionally open up the blind and see what's out there in the window, not like there's much out to see when you're up in the sky. As the plane was descending onto Montreal, for some strange reason I really felt very faint as the plane was going down. Which was weird because I never felt like this the last time I was on a flight. But for this particular flight, for some weird reason, anytime when there was pressure of the plane descending, my head just keep slumping back and I'd feel very like I'm going to faint. But thank goodness I didn't pass out when the plane landed. And I had a good angle to see that little bridge coming into the plane. Other than that, I have made it to Montreal. As I was leaving the airport, I did saw all these cute little taxis have the word bonjour on the side. At least they don't look like they want to abduct me, right? Right? So here we are with a map of where the eclipse will take place throughout North America. From the website timeanddate.com, where I usually get most of my eclipse information. The dark pink section with a dotted line is the path of totality. Obviously, that's the area where people will experience the eclipse at full totality. The eclipse is first gonna go through the northern central part of Mexico, and then through Texas and the Midwest of the United States, and then the northeastern part of the US, as well as the little tidbit points of Ontario and Quebec, and then throughout the Maritimes of Canada. Where I'll be traveling to and staying will be somewhere around here where it's marked on the map. As you can see, it is just on the path of totality. As long as I stay south of where I am in Montreal, I should be fine. Oh yeah, I was also able to find this cool looking map that has both eclipse passes, from the one back in 2017, which I was honored to see with my dad at the time, and the one I'm going to be seeing for this trip in 2024. I was able to check in at my hotel without minimal issue, and I was settled with a room that had a relatively decent view of the airport. At least my little Air Canada buddy has a little spot to watch all of his plane friends. Which now brings us here to the hotel that I'm staying at. As the eclipse is still very much a priority, I'm going to find myself something to do to entertain myself until then. And also, I might have this moment in my hotel room to do some narration voiceovers, and as well as, shots like this, what you're seeing, to pretty much give you any kind of update and anything else that might be on my mind. So, yeah. When I was done filming as well as getting settled in, I decided to check the place out and see what it has available. It has its decent decor, ballrooms, conference rooms, and a relatively spacious gym for those who like to keep their cardio and muscles in check. Oh yeah, this hotel also has a nice little lounge called Eclipse. Could it be a coincidence? Maybe. As I was scouting for ideas and places to go for Eclipse Day, I came across this beautiful open park south of where my hotel was. It was a park that was within the Dorval or Dorval area, however how you pronounce it. You also had yourself a great view of the water. I believe that must be the St. Lawrence River, if I may have remember seeing on a map somewhere. It's definitely one of those places where you can really feel at peace with yourself by taking the sights and the water, or just enjoying the open space with your friends and family. It also had those little sheltered gazebos where you can pretty much walk in and sit, or even have yourself some lunch. But what was real crazy was by how many red-winged blackbirds were just chirping at each other. Just take a listen. But no matter how I think about it, this is the place I gotta be on Eclipse Day. And I won't be surprised if it's gonna be quite busy on that day. And I've gotta get there at my latest convenience before it gets too crowded tomorrow. Oh yes, while I was in that little neighborhood, I stopped by a convenience store and get myself some drinks. Especially since most of the shops around here end up closing early at 5 on a Sunday. Which is quite interesting compared to what I'm used to back at home. But nonetheless, I got myself 2 bottles of Pepsi Zero and I'm happy about that. However, I tend to have a bit of a fit when it comes to mini fridges at hotels, because they don't tend to make my drink cold enough. So I used the little ice buckets that they have, and then used the ice from the ice machine to cover up most of the bottled drink. Usually works for me. And then I went to the Eclipse Lounge for an ice cold drink and some dinner. I had myself some chicken wings with some kind of sriracha flavored sauce that you can either dip in and twist or just pour it on, whatever you want to do. So after dinner, I pretty much had myself a shower and now spend the rest of the evening in my room recording some of those voiced overs and also snacking on some of these donuts I just bought earlier. They're nice, really soft. Well, I guess it's time to get some sleep because, you know, it's a pretty big day tomorrow. All right, so here we are. It's about 7:30 local time around Montreal. So far, it does seem like a very decent day. Hopefully decent enough for a solar eclipse. For breakfast, I went back to the Eclipse Lounge and had myself a nice bagel sandwich. It had itself some salmon, cream cheese, lettuce, red onions, and a couple other things that I am not sure how to pronounce. But it was tasty and it helped me get started on my day. After that, I went out to get myself some sunscreen at a Walmart that had an escalator, which is something I don't see every day. When I came back to my room, I pretty much just got my camera all set up and ready to go for the eclipse. I checked the weather app on my phone earlier, and it did make me a bit concerned because it said it would be expected to be quite cloudy during eclipse time. However, according to the weather network on the hotel's complimentary computer, it did say that it is going to be sunny with a few clouds here and there. So it was a matter of trusting my instincts and keeping an eye on the sky. Now, when it comes to watching eclipses, either that be a total, annular, or even a partial eclipse, you cannot look directly at the sunlight because it will hurt your eyes. That's why you can use these special little eclipse glasses or solar glasses, whatever you call it, that has a special filter on for the lens for your eyes. And you can just simply put them on just like regular sunglasses and yeah, here you are. I mean, it's not the most fashionable thing in the world, but you know what? It does its job to help protect my eyes against the UV rays. This is also the same thing when it comes to cameras and its lenses. So that's why you use a special filter for your camera. It doesn't have to be a very crazy expensive one. This one that I'm using is one you pretty much just fold it into its shape, and then you can pretty much just slide onto the camera lens, you know, just like that. As you can tell, this is my first rodeo because I was there when I saw the eclipse back in 2017. In fact, this little filter that I'll be using for my camera, this is the same one that I also used back in 2017 as well. But last I checked, it still works, you know, relatively fine. So hope it doesn't give me too much trouble when it is eclipse time later this afternoon. Oh, if it helps anyone feel better, once the totality happens during the total solar eclipse, that's when you take all the solar filter stuff off and then enjoy yourself the show. You've only got about 1 or 2 minutes or less of totality, so make the most of what you can to both admire its beauty and also take all of its pictures and whatever that you need to do during totality. After when I was done filming those clips, I pretty much just sat there and waited and prayed for good weather. I've also had some time to speak with friends and family of mine wishing me luck for the eclipse, but I think it's time we head back to that park now. So I have arrived back at the park via Uber. I also had some time to take a little stroll around the little village area close by, as well as admiring some of these beautiful establishments between the town and the park. But I did got myself something to snack on and something to drink. There was a sheet of some very light clouds. However, as far as I know, those are the kind of clouds that wouldn't necessarily interfere with the sun. There actually wasn't that many people when I first arrived. There were some who were taking a little bit of a stroll by the water or having them set up a little picnic. But I wasn't surprised to see people like me who are here for the eclipse, especially later. I was able to set up camp at a relatively decent spot in the open space of the park. It's actually not far from that little scene here when I was listening to all those red-winged blackbirds. I've also borrowed a bath towel from my hotel room to use as something to sit on while I am at camp at the park. But don't worry, I have gotten permission from the hotel staff to do so, as long as I bring the towel back, which in case I did. Oh, and I've ended up taking my plane with me for good luck. As more people arrived at the park, I pretty much took this time to get my camera all set and ready to go for the eclipse. And now, all there's left is the anticipation as I waited. Okay, it's time for the moment everyone's been waiting for, or may have skipped through this video. It's eclipse time, people. At around 2:15 p.m., it was a time when the moon started its transition across the sun. It was also a time where I started wearing more of these sexy babies. The park was also getting a lot more people now. The ones who are already around me, they were starting to get excited as soon as they spotted the moon starting its journey across the sun. So this picture was taken at around 2:30 to 2:35. From how much the moon is covering right now, it's really making the sun's disk look like a bit of a thick crescent or a fat banana as some would call it. At around 2:45 to 2:50 p.m., I would say from looking at this image, the moon is just about halfway covering the sun. And the more the moon covers up the sun and that the sun's little crescent thing becomes smaller and smaller, that's when temperatures begin to decline, quite understandably. Now this one was just at around 3 p.m. I tried to do what I can to get a good shot of how the moon is covering the sun, but for some reason my camera kept making him look a bit too blurry or overexposed. I'm not entirely sure if it has to do with the cloud interference or not. Or maybe my camera is just giving me a difficult time. Or it could be the fact that it was a bit windy out there and it's difficult to keep my camera steady while I have the zoom at max with the lens I was using. Oh yeah, there's also definitely a lot more people at the park now. Even my plane decided to join in the fun for a little bit. So this image was at around 3:10 p.m. As you can sort of see, we are almost there to totality. I can sort of tell from the people around me that they were starting to get pretty excited. However, I was starting to shiver a little bit because of how the temperatures were dropping. Especially with the wind, it definitely made it a bit worse. Was I a bit foolish for not bringing my sweater? More than likely. But I know that it was too late to turn back right now. Now, I'm not sure if anyone can see this, but my surrounding area was starting to become more dim and not as bright as it was earlier. Now, this image was taken at around 3:18 p.m. The moon has covered the sun to a point where the sun's disk looked like a freshly cut toenail or fingernail. But other than that, we're getting very close. During the last few minutes of totality, I've set my phone camera somewhere on a comfortable spot on my tripod pointing towards the southwest, because the southwest is where the moon's umbral shadow will be coming from. So before totality happens, that area is going to get darker. It will kind of look like a storm or some heavy rain is coming, but it's neither of those. It's a sign that totality is happening soon. Now, I'll leave you guys with the rest of this clip here, so that way you guys can watch the southwest as well as listening to other people's reactions, especially my own. And that way I can focus on the work with my camera to snap some pictures. Anytime now, any freaking moment. it now. God, it's happening. Oh, it's happening. It's happening. Oh, yeah. Yeah! At around 3:26 p.m., the eclipse became full totality. Though my camera decided to be a dick to me and ruin the totality shot, the max totality looked a bit like this. Even though this is the one that I took back in 2017, at least it gave you a bit of an idea to what I saw in person and through the eye part of my camera. As you can see, there's the rim from the sunlight. And then there's the eclipse right there. Can't see it, but it's there. Yeah! Oh, sorry, I spat a bit. Then, after being in a moment of awe, there is that diamond ring of totality coming to an end. And here's a little bit of clip of me admiring the diamond ring while I could still see it. And then, as you may have noticed, the sunlight slowly started coming back again. And as I take a look behind me, there was the moon's umbral shadow, moving on to the next part of its journey. Probably somewhere in New Brunswick or Newfoundland, more likely. But on my end, it's mission accomplished. Yeah! While some people continue to stick around until the moon finishes crossing the sun, for others, it was pretty much time to pack up and leave. Oh, and while I was packing up, there was an airplane that flew by that left a neat-looking shadow in its stream. Not like it was necessary, but it was still pretty cool to point out. Now that I've successfully saw the eclipse, I can now relax and treat this trip like a proper getaway. I wonder how the geese felt during totality. Anyways, I had a moment to thank the park for being such a great host to me for the eclipse. As I was making my way back to the little neighborhood, I stopped by a little burger restaurant as a place to celebrate. Not bad after seeing eclipse. My plane and I enjoyed ourselves a nice tasty burger that had the patty, cheese, lettuce, tomato, onions, and ketchup and mustard, at least as far as I saw. I mean, sure, it's not the most fanciest thing, but sometimes the most simplest is the most effective. When I asked the person who was serving me what they thought about the show, she had told me that she got quite a bit emotional when she saw it outside of her house. Which, in some ways, shape, or form, did hit me back home from when I first saw my first eclipse back in 2017. After I was done eating, I took a look at this area one last time before I may or may not see it again. So as I came back to my hotel after the eclipse, I pretty much took this time to reflect, take a breath, as well as respond to friends and family of mine who were asking me how it went, especially for those who have seen what I've been posting on my Snapchat story. I also went on a little stroll to a gas station where I pretty much got myself a cold drink and a snack to unwind for the rest of the night. And when I came back, I pretty much lifted some weights and blew out some steam at the little gym I showed you from earlier. And now, I was a little bit unsure about it at first, but I also decided to spend some of my night in downtown Montreal, just to say that I've experienced Montreal, as well as to admire the awe and beauty of the city at night. I also seemed to really enjoy myself with the vibe of the nightlife of the city, or at least more specifically the era that I ventured myself in. I also had myself a cold beverage at a little tavern called, I hope I'm not botching this, Les Trois Brasseurs, or the Three Brewers in English. Not like I drink alcohol anyways. I also got myself a little RCMP car of a Ford Taurus at a little Canadian souvenir shop, whereas if you press the little bull bars of the car, the doors pop right open. And I believe that maybe where like the little sirens of the car, or maybe even the car alarm, I am not too sure. It seems like the batteries are either dead or there's no batteries at all. As much as the whole nightlife being around the area was great, it was pretty much time for me to head back to my hotel and to finish up my documenting. Now, this is probably the part that's on everyone's mind right now. Was the whole Eclipse experience everything I've asked for? Well, yes and no at the same time. The reason why I say that because I didn't necessarily want this to be a solo trip of mine. Because after the eclipse I saw with my dad back in 2017, I wanted the next one I see, which happens to be this one that happened in the video. I wanted to experience it with both, obviously myself, my sister, her husband, and a special plus one of mine, to experience it all together. And if there's any other family members from like my brother-in-law's side that want to join in, I mean, they'd be welcome to that. However, that never really happened. Plus, I've been single since early 2023. I mean, hey, you never know what happened between, now and then within 7 years. But being able to just see the eclipse itself and to pretty much get what I want out of it, I mean, that itself is enough to be grateful for of this trip. Even though my time at Montreal was very brief, as you can pretty much tell, I pretty much made the most out of it. Sure, if I had more time, I would experience more, but that would make a bit too long of a video, and there's only so much you can do when you're on a very particular budget. Now, don't take this the wrong way, but I think it's really nice how you're able to travel and experience the world, either that would be nationally or internationally while you're still young. Don't get me wrong, you can have the joys of traveling at any age you want, but when you're able to travel on your own terms, at your own pace, it really does hit different when you're still in your 20s. With a few exceptions, of course. And of course, nothing was perfect on the trip. Let's say, for example, at Walmart, at the self-checkout, everything was just all in French. And I really had me a little confused on which button is which. And also there's that thing where the shops have closed really earlier than usual, than at least as far as I'm used to back at home. Oh yeah, and the taxi driver that brought me to my hotel didn't exactly give me the most easiest time. Not exactly good when the taxi drivers don't exactly align with the appearance of their cars. Also, did I mention that my camera was being a bit of a dick to me during eclipse time? But other than that, I would say this was a solid and successful trip of mine. So what's next? Well, as soon as I check out, I have to take a multi-plane flight back to my hometown. But if everything goes smoothly, it shouldn't be too much of a hassle. As long as I know where I need to go, I should be fine. Right, so I'll keep this brief. I got to the airport and went through security without any issue. And I was able to go through both airports without minimal anxiety. The only thing that was making me anxious is whatever kind of rabbit hole I found myself in through on my phone. Other than that, I was eager to get myself home. So here we are, back at a very familiar space of ours, and with some relatively fresh, clean clothes, and as you can see, I am now wearing a cool-looking Montreal hat that I got from another gift shop while I was still there. With that being said, my journey to the solar eclipse has now been completed. It's time to move on to the next project, whatever that will be. I also want to thank you for coming along with this journey with me. I know it's not the most high-octane video I've made, but I guess that's what I expect when it comes to a video like this. The next total solar eclipse happening right after the one I just saw would be in 2026 between Greenland and Spain. The next total happening within North America would be in 2033 in mostly Alaska, and the next total happening in Canada would be in 2044 between the Northwest Territories and the Rocky Mountain side of Alberta. And the next total happening within my local area would be at around 2144. But no matter what total eclipse I'll see next, wherever it is or whenever it is, I'll be sure to be ready for that. Either be with a solo trip or hopefully the shared experience with an entourage. But anyways, I've done my part. This was AloneRacecar, and I will see you in another one.